Good evening, everyone. This week's parsha is Parshas Tisa, Tavshin Pei Beis. There is a work on halacha, on practical Jewish law called the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. Literally means the abridged code of Jewish law. It was written in the 19th century by Rabbi Shlomo Gansfried, and it was meant to be a handbook for practical halacha, for practical Jewish law. And chapter 29 of the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch is entitled "The Laws of the Mourner's Kaddish." This is as it says. It's the chapter that's dedicated to the laws concerning the Kaddish that a mourner says after a parent, a close relative, and the opening statement of that chapter reads, "Many stories are told in the Midrashim indicating that because the son said Kaddish for his father or mother, they were saved from heavenly judgment. It is therefore customary for a mourner to say Kaddish, to be called up to Maftir, which is the final aliyah of the Torah reading on Shabbos and on the holidays, and to act as chazan before the congregation, meaning to lead the services. These are the things that a mourner typically does. Maybe some of you aren't so familiar with getting maftir. Maftir, again, is the 8th aliyah that we get on, or the last aliyah, on Shabbos or on Yontif, which is followed by the Haftarah. And that's also what's go to a mourner. More commonly, we see a mourner saying Kaddish and leading the services. This is the opening statement of that chapter, and the discussion of these laws continues for 22 paragraphs. The final paragraph is something that is very eye-opening. Even though the saying of Kaddish, right, and prayers are helpful to the souls of the parents, yet they are not the main thing. The most important thing is that the children walk in the path of righteousness, because with that they gain heavenly favor for their parents. Thus, it is written in the Holy Zohar, a son honors his father, which is a statement from the prophet Malachi. And the Zohar continues, this statement is similar to the divine command, honor your father and your mother, which teaches that a child must provide parents with food, drink, their needs. All this he must do while they are alive. But continues the Zohar, after their death, you might think he is exempt. It's he or she, son or daughter. This is not so. Even after their death, it is his duty to honor them even more. For it is written, honor your father. And if the son walks in the path of evil, he shows surely contempt for his father, disgraces him. But if the son walks in the path of righteousness and acts properly, he certainly honors his father thereby. He honors him in this world in the eyes of men. People say, look at what kind of a wonderful son the father and mother raised, and confers glory on him in the other world, in the presence of the Holy One, blessed is he. And the Holy One, blessed is he, has mercy on him and sits him on his throne of honor. That is what the Zohar concludes. And of course, this applies to both fathers, mothers, sons, and daughters. So this is a very eye-opening idea, that the mitzvah of honoring one's parents continues after they've passed. And actually, we have even a bigger responsibility to do that for them after they have passed on. In the other world, it makes a huge difference for them how we behave in this world. It's not just about Kaddish. Kaddish is tremendous. Excuse me. Leading the services is tremendous. But the main thing, writes the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, is how we live our lives, and how in heaven they say to our parents, or about our parents and to our parents, look what you produced. Look what you put in the world. Look at the children that are bringing honor to God's name in the world. And that gains them merit and reward and honor in the afterlife. Very eye-opening and important idea. With this idea, we can explain something very interesting in this week's parsha. The parsha has many discussions in it. And again, it talks about the construction of the Mishkan a bit. In Parak Lamed Aleph, chapter 31, Psukim Aleph through Vav, verses 1 through 6. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe lemar, Hashem said to Moshe, saying, Re'eh, see, or behold, Karasi b'shem, I have called by name, Betzalel ben Uri ben Hur lamate Yehuda, a man, who was actually a very young man then, Betzalel, the son of Uri, the son of Hur, of the tribe of Yehuda. V'malei oiser ruach Elokim, I have filled him with the Spirit of God, b'chachma, with wisdom, u'bismuna, with understanding, u'vadasa, with knowledge, u'v'chol malacha, and with all craftsmanship. Lachshay machshavais, to make designs. La'asais bazav, u'bakesef, b'nachoshes, to do work with gold, silver, and copper. U'v'chareshes even, and in stonework. Uvachareshes eitz, and in woodwork, lases b'chal malacha, to do all work. Now, va'ani hine nasati itai, behold, I have given with him, he'll have a partner, Eis Ahaliyav ben Achisamach lamate Dan, a man named Ahaliyav, the son of Achisamach, of the tribe of Dan. Ubelev kol chacham lev nasati chachma, and in the heart of all those who are wise of heart, I have given wisdom. And they shall do all that I will command you. So this was the team. Those who were in charge of the design and construction of the Mishkan. The one on top, the one who was mainly in charge, was Betzalel. Betzalel actually was the great grandson of Miriam. And his father and his grandfather was Hur. Hur, actually, when Moshe went up on Mount Sinai to receive the Torah, he told the Jewish people, I'm leaving in charge while I'm gone, Aaron and Hur, his nephew. When the Jewish people wanted to make the golden calf, they first approached Hur. And Hur refused to allow it, and they killed him for it. That was Betzalel's background, his ancestry. His next in line was Ahaliyav ben Achisamach from the tribe of Dan, and they had a team of people who God also filled. They were filled with wisdom, and the team that they had assisting them was filled with wisdom. What is interesting to note, as pointed out by the commentary of Drasha, is the fact that when we talk about Betzalel, we actually go into we talk about Betzalel, him himself, Ben Uri, his father, Ben Hur, his grandfather. So we have three generations here, Betzalel, and then his father and grandfather. When we talk about Ahaliyav, all we say is Ahaliyav ben Achisamach. Ahaliyav, the son of Achisamach. That's it. Why is it that by Betzalel we mention his grandfather and by Ahaliyav not? And it's not just because he had an illustrious grandfather. That wouldn't be, if there was no reason to mention it, wouldn't mention it. Says the Drasha, Lakach hisker beBetzalel avi aviv. It is for the following reason that the Torah mentions Betzalel's father's father, Mashlo hisker b'Ahaliyav ela aviv, while by Ahaliyav only mentions Ahaliav's father. Lefi shehur nerag al maisa ha'igel. As I said before, Hur was killed over the making of the calf. And the Mishkan comes to atone for the sin of the golden calf. Therefore, his name is mentioned here by the Mishkan. Okay. The Mishkan is an atonement for the sin of the golden calf. Hur gave up his life trying to prevent the sin of the golden calf, and therefore his name is mentioned here. So what is just some kind of loose association between the two things? Clearly not. Clearly there's something more going on here. And it's really meant to explain why Bezalel was chosen to be the main architect of the Mishkan. And not only was he chosen, he was chosen to be filled with the divine spirit needed to construct the Mishkan. He was clearly filled, God filled him with tremendous talent and wisdom. As the commentaries say, not only physical, architectural, or construction talent, but to be able to construct the Mishkan, he had to understand also the spiritual underpinnings of the Mishkan. And he had to have all that in mind to be able to construct the Mishkan. The reason he merited to be that one, to receive that, to be able to do that, was because of his grandfather. Because his grandfather, Hur, gave up his life to prevent the construction of the Mishkan, to prevent the Jewish people from sinning. The atonement for that sin would come from his grandchild. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? It's also something symbolic. What does it mean? The fact that Bezalel is atoning for the sin that his grandfather tried to prevent. And according to what we just read from the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch, it works out very well. If a son's actions bring honor to his father and mother, or a daughter's actions brings honor to a father and mother in the afterlife, because they are the ones that produce these children, it is what they did that is bringing honor to God's name in down on earth, in the world. Then that means that they get the credit for the good deeds that their children do. Now, in this case, it's not just a child, it's a grandchild. A grandchild also works. Grandchild can also bring honor to a grandfather, to a grandparent. And in this case, it worked out that way because since Hur gave up his life to prevent the sin of the golden calf, it would now be his grandchild that would bring the atonement for the sin, and the actions of the grandchild would be credited to his grandfather, and his grandfather would receive the reward for it. That's what it means here. What it means that because Hur gave up his life to prevent the sin of the golden calf, and therefore now he merited that his grandson should bring about atonement for it, it means that he merited that his grandson should bring the atonement, and that will bring him reward for that because it's his grandson doing it. And he deserved that because of the fact that he tried to prevent the sin of the golden calf. That's that I believe is the meaning here. Again, this really stresses this point of how our children, our grandchildren, our descendants can bring honor to an ancestor, to a grandparent, to a parent through their action, dedication to Torah and mitzvahs. Rabbi Mordechai Kamenetsky brings a beautiful analogy from Rabbi Avraham Pam Zatzal about the impact of our actions on the souls of our parents. When Rabbi Pam, who was the Rosh Yeshiva of the Yeshiva Torah Vodaas in Brooklyn, when he was a young boy, he grew up in Lithuania, in the Slobodka region of Lithuania, and studied at a yeshiva for young boys far away from home. Now, this yeshiva was located across the river. May not have been so far a distance, but transportation wasn't so easy, wasn't so common. And Rabbi Pam reminisced that a friend of the family was a wagon driver. And he offered to bring packages whenever he crossed the river from Rabbi Pam's mother to him. So if the driver told the boy's mother, told Mrs. Pam that he was leaving right now, she would just send regards, send my son regards. If he told her that he was leaving in the evening, she would write a letter. If he gave her advance notice that he was leaving the next day, she would send a package. So Rabbi Pam compared the crossing of the river to the afterlife. A Kaddish that a mourner says is regards. That's sending regards to a parent. He's saying a Kaddish, it brings nachas, it brings pleasure to the parent. Regards from someone always makes you feel good. Davening before the services and saying Kaddish is sending a letter. That brings even more pleasure to the recipient. But doing a mitzvah in the merit in the merit for a parent, that's sending a package. That's sending a package. That's really what sends them. That gives them real nachas, and that gives them something. It gives them something. The truth is, the regards, the letter, that also gives them something. The package, of course, is always the best thing. The Torah, the mitzvah that we do, especially that we do them in their memory, is a tremendous benefit for them. So that's what we have to remember. The mitzvah of honoring a father and mother is during one's lifetime, during the lifetime of the parents, and even after the lifetime of a parent. And if someone, Baruch Hashem, still has their parents, they can also give them the same nachas, the same pleasure, the same honor when they follow in their parents' footsteps and live a life full of Torah mitzvahs. Have a wonderful Shabbos.